So be open and honest. We're here to help you with all of your goals, right? Getting you into a house is number one. But if we can facilitate a few things in one transaction, how amazing is that? Hello, welcome to Closing Chapters, Everyday Real Estate Tales. I'm your host, Brittany Fry. I'm a realtor, I'm a military wife, and I'm a mom. Join me and come transaction by transaction throughout my real estate career starting back in 2016 to hear about the highs, the lows, and the unexpected turns along the way through all of my customers. It's going to be a crazy ride, you guys. I am so excited to share the past, the current, and then what's coming in the future. Hang tight for the ride. Join me about being a realtor, a military spouse, and a mom. Can't wait to see you there. Happy Saturday, friends. It is another drive from our family adventure. If you didn't know, we like to get up early on the weekends, not by choice. But once we're already up early on the weekends, we really like to bundle up the family and just go find something fun to do. So today we went over to Springfield, Missouri, and had a great time at like this aquarium nature center that's attached to Bass Pro Shops over in Springfield, Missouri. So if you ever find yourself over there, it was really cool and we had a lot of fun. It's a lot colder today than it has been the past week or so. So we were really not prepared to do anything outside. So that was a great retreat indoors. So we're on the way back and it is time to come to you with our next deal beginning in 2018. My first transaction in 2018 was a fantastic military family, and this transaction came with a lot of personal lessons learned or understandings. So a lot of times when you are in real estate, right, there's certain things that we just think, gosh, why would somebody want to do that? Or this just doesn't make sense. In life in general, we're that way, right? We don't always understand why people want to do this extra thing. So in military community, especially when I was at Shaw Air Force Base in Sumter, South Carolina, the big thing is that people would want to drive to some of the neighboring towns. They would want to go to Camden, Lugoff, Elgin, Northeast Columbia. That's kind of like the little nook. And Camden area is like 25 minutes away from the base. But when you talk about like Northeast Columbia, you're anywhere from like 45 to like an hour to the base. And there's plenty of affordable housing in Sumter, or at least at that time, there absolutely was, right? So for me, it was like, if you can get a really nice house for the price point you want to spend and be like 10 minutes away from the base, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you want your spouse home, right? That's my mindset is, okay, let's eliminate as much time, travel time, and let my spouse get home and have family time. Because in the military, sometimes that's not often, right? I firmly believe personally that for military folks, when they are home, when they're stateside, where there is nothing pressing going on, that they deserve all the time in the world to have flexibility and be at home with their family as much as possible. Not to say that they shouldn't still have their day-to-day job. That's not what I'm saying. Don't take it too far, friends. But my point is, they should be able to get off and go home. Or if their kid has an appointment, go to that appointment. If we have a soccer game, go to the soccer game, right? When you're home. This is just my personal preference, okay? This is just what I think personally. Because when the military member is gone, they're gone. 100%. There's no coming home in the evening, right? You're missing life, you're missing things. And I just think they deserve to have that opportunity to be as involved as they want to be when they are stateside. So whenever I had a family that would come to me and say, hey, I want to look at this area 45 minutes to an hour away. My husband will be fine. He doesn't mind the drive. It helps him unwind, blah, 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 blah. So many times I would say, yeah, like your husband is feeding you lip service just to let you do what you want to do. How many people really want to get in the car and drive an hour one way each time to go to work? Some people I think probably don't mind it. Others I do think are probably just saying what their spouse wants to hear, or the spouse really isn't giving them much of an option. That's a different conversation for another day. I just think a little bit differently than some when it comes to some of the military aspects of things, the family household, the dynamics, all of that. Anyhow, the one thing that was really brought to light, and now that we have children, because we did not then, like I said, this is 2018, our first kiddo came along in 2020. So the one thing that I've really had to learn is that the amenities or the things you need to be accessible to can change drastically when you have children. And a lot of times that was the foundation of this. It was like, I want my kids to go to this particular school. Or in their instance, right, they needed access to some different medical professionals. And everybody that they needed, they could find in this nook of town. And she didn't have to go all over God's creation several times a week to go to these different appointments she needed to have available for her children. So that made sense. And the more that we talked about it and the more we started to, she was an open book kind of person, which I loved. So I could really sit down and rack her brain and say, hey, to me, this doesn't make sense. Why would you give up this and this and this instead of having, all of us together? And so it was really enlightening to get a little better of understanding of why sometimes people choose to live further away from military communities or military bases. So, like I said, in this instance, it was very specific for the children, right? There were specific things she was looking for her kids to be involved in, specific, medical professionals to have at her, accessible to her, and the schools. So there was several facets going there. So we found them, a fantastic all brick, beautiful home in Wood Creek Farms in Northeast Columbia, Pontiac, South Carolina. If you're looking on the map, right? So she's right there by the Pontiac Elementary School, so to speak. But it was a fantastic neighborhood. If you ever get a chance to go through Wood Creek Farms, you should. It's really cool. And they were in some of the older original part. They've got some new construction going in there that's more of like the stock builders, as I would say, like that's a set floor plan and there's 5 in a row, whatever have you. This was a custom home that had been built a few years prior. It was still a relatively new home. It wasn't in bad shape. It was pretty nice and it was good to go. We got a fantastic deal on this sucker. It was originally listed for $389. Got it for $322. Now, here's why. They had some smart features in the home and some custom things they had done, right? And they bought the lot and built the house, the original owners, when things were a little bit higher and the market had settled a smidge, and that all just kind of worked in our favor. It had sat on the market for a little while, and for a little while, I mean, it was well over 100 days, and it was time for it to get moving. They already had plans to be getting out of the house and going elsewhere, and they really needed to sell it. So my buyers were able to get a fantastic deal on this house. It was 2,800 square feet, almost 29, 4 bedrooms, 4.5 baths. A huge bonus room upstairs, office downstairs, formal dining room, beautiful wall of windows, so much natural light in the living room, and it had a great backyard. It was awesome. There were a few nuances, right? There were some cosmetic things that could be done to make it look nicer or more updated or modern. So that was, going in knowing that there was no fenced-in backyard, and she had 3 boys and a dog, which that would be advantageous, right? So there's a few things that needed to be done still, and they bought the house and gradually started to work on that, updating the kitchen. They put in a fantastic fence. And when I mean fantastic, I mean like brick and wrought iron fence, because per the regs for that neighborhood, it had to be a certain way. So it was like all the brick columns every so often, and then like the wrought iron fencing in between. And that was a feat in itself, because like most properties, there are utility easements, and this one kind of went down to like a little bit of a ditch. And trying to figure out what you can and cannot do sometimes with these utility easements can be a feat. A lot of times the utility companies themselves do not have great guidance. The county does not have great guidance. Nobody has great guidance. And when you're doing something a little bit more permanent, like brick posts, right? You don't want them to get knocked down because somebody has to go access a utility line, right? So we really needed to be particular and know exactly what they could or couldn't do. So that took a little while to get past that hump. But afterwards, they did a fantastic job with it. Now, there were a couple things that were like, this is a good surprise that we were not expecting. Whenever the sellers moved out, I just told you there was this beautiful natural light all over the living room, right? Well, they had a rug in the living room for a very long time in the same exact spot. And when that rug was removed, there was a beautiful square in the middle of this hardwood floor. And the floor was two different colors from where the rug had been. Easy enough fix, right? You put down another rug. Well, what if they didn't want to do that? I was kind of like, ooh, this isn't great. This is not a fun surprise. And they were supposed to do some stuff with the carpet that didn't really happen. So there was a couple things where we were like, all right, we're taking a hit, but it's okay because overall we're getting a fantastic deal. So I'm saying all this to say, like, no matter where you want to go, right? You can find a great house as long as you keep your mind open, okay? These bathrooms did need a little bit of updating. The kitchen was beautiful. The cabinetry was beautiful. The backsplash was not. It just wasn't. So it was like little nuances, okay? But if you are open-minded to those things and you can take them on a little bit at a time, you really can have an absolutely stunning home and stunning space and a fantastic location, right? And get in under the radar and sell on a high note. And she is a great example of this. And I have another fantastic family that did a phenomenal job at this, where every year tax season, they would come to me and say, hey, Brittany, we're picking between this project and this project. What's going to give me the most for bang for my buck, right? And we would talk about it and decide which would happen in what order. So eventually, they had renovated their kitchen, updated their primary bathroom, repainted the whole entire house, had new flooring put in a lot of the house, several different things along the way that absolutely added up. Like, they bought the house for under $200,000 and sold it for $330 4 years later. That is fantastic returns, if you ask me. So same thing here. They did a little bit at a time, and every time they had an opportunity to do something, they got that project knocked out and kept on trucking. Now, in the background, this was an officer family in the military, so the husband was deploying and coming back and had a lot going on. So this was like the other part of the piece of the puzzle where I didn't understand why they wanted to be so far away, right? If you know your spouse is deploying, if you know that they're going to have like limited, availability sometimes, and he was in a job where they were having to work kind of like shift work. So he wasn't just a daytime hours guy. And I'm like, okay, I don't want my husband getting off at midnight, 8 a.m. and then driving an hour, like after working overnight. So these were a lot of the conversations that we had along the way. And once again, it makes sense now. We're getting ready to go through the same thing. The oncoming base that we're going to, we already know that there's a potential deployment scheduled ahead of time. So that was a huge factor that actually changed our decision to where we were going to live and why we were going to live there. And the reasoning was we were going to live on base. And we were going to give up a lot of house, a lot of options and amenities, just a lot. But if that provided us the opportunity to be a family unit and be close to home all the time, we were going to do that. Well, when we got wind of the fact that there was a pretty good chance that he'll be deploying within the first year of us being there, that automatically changed everything, where it's like, okay, well, what's the purpose of being on base to be close to you if you're not even going to be here, right? I need to be where I can thrive, where the children can thrive, where we have the space to do the things we need to. And why are we giving up these niceties if we're not getting the benefit of having you here? So it's a lot different now that we have kids and I can see through that lens. And I say all this to remind you that if you are working with people that are in a different phase of life than you or going through a different scenario than you, be open-minded and ask those questions. A lot of times people are not offended. They would rather you understand why they want to do this thing or what they are trying to accomplish so that you facilitate that better for them. And I am so glad now that she did do that for me, because she was the first person to really have an honest conversation with me and just tell me what she wanted to be by and why it was important and what their daily schedule looked like. And that makes a whole lot more sense when you understand it. Do I really need to understand all the ins and outs all the time? No. If a client tells me, hey, this is the location I want to be in, then my job is to find them a house in the location they want to be in, right? But I have a bad habit of caring a little too much and wanting to make sure the whole picture is taken care of. So a lot of times I like to ask those questions and know, like, but why? Like, why do you want to be there? And what's so important to you? And if this is important to you, then can we find it in this location and that location? And you never know. Sometimes people are like, oh, I just need this thing, and they don't know that it exists elsewhere. That's a whole lot more convenient for them. And if you check that box, they're like, oh, heck yeah, Brittany, you're going to get me in a house the same size for $50,000 less. The thing that I need is right there, and I get to be closer to the base. Yeah, let's go. So you never know unless you have those conversations. So word to the wise, if you are a real estate agent, don't just ask, where do you want to be? What price point? What size house? Get the story behind it. Understand your client's needs 100%. Why do they want to be there? What are they looking for? Do they want to be close to a specific amenity? Do you have children in gymnastics and you want to be within 5 miles of the gymnastics place that you want your kids to go to? I had one this year that wanted to be close enough to a dojo, right? That was their thing. The whole family does it, and it was very specific that they wanted to be in a few different locations because of that. It's really good to know these things, friends. And on the client side, if you are looking to buy and you're like, why is this agent asking me all these questions and getting all in my business? It benefits you to be open and honest with us and tell us exactly why you want to be somewhere so that we can keep our eyes and ears open at all times. Because what if there's this perfect property getting ready to come on the market right around from the corner from this preferred amenity that you want to have access to, and we can't see it yet? And I'm just going by the location, just plugging in the numbers and not checking around, not doing, any behind the scenes work, right? I can't work for you 100% that way. I can't ask other agents, do you have anything coming? I can't go to a preferred neighborhood or around a preferred amenity and start poking around and seeing, are there any for sale by owner signs, right? What if you're not in state and I can drive over there and look around and see something that has potential? So be open and honest. We're here to help you with all of your goals, right? Getting you into a house is number one. But if we can facilitate a few things in one transaction, how amazing is that? And that's what I care about with my families, especially my military families. I want to help make sure that we have the overall picture taken care of for you. So if you are a military family and you're getting ready to make a military move, remember, if you're concerned about moving somewhere or want to hash it out, give me a call. I will talk to you about the process, get you hooked up with a fantastic agent wherever you are going. And also, just remember that we are here for you. The more information you give us and let us know exactly what you want to do with your time that you are at that location, then we are open books and we will get to town doing that research for you. Even if it's something I'm not involved with or don't know exactly, I'll find somebody that is, and we'll start, going through the Rolodex. We'll start finding the people that can help us out or get us where we need to be, as long as we know what we're trying to accomplish. So that's the name of the game. Be open and honest on both sides. Agents, you need to listen. Clients, you got to be talking. Let us know. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I hope that you understand that every scenario is truly different. And that is what is so cool about real estate, is that we get to do virtually the same type of thing day in and day out, but every transaction is a smidge different no matter what we're doing. I hope you have a fantastic day. I'll talk to you soon.